So, John, how often should I plan on patching a vSAN environment?
So back in the Stone Ages with vSphere, we would deploy it, we would install it, and then we would never upgrade it again until it's time to migrate to a new cluster. And this was all over the systems world. Windows 2000, 2003, people would brag about uptime. Oh my gosh, I've got, they would show these uptimes of core switches and things of 4 years, 8 years. The system's been alive. And I think some of the Unix admins kind of took this to a cult like level, but it's time to stop that. You need to be ready to patch anything in your environment on a monthly cadence, if for no other reason than security. This is something that while vSphere is a incredibly hardened, highly secure platform, there are security advisors from time to time. This is an evolving state, and so just one thing to do is, and as long as you're patching on a regular cadence, you're going to kind of learn to operationalize and automate that. This doesn't mean you have to be eyes on glass through every single patch. You don't necessarily even, some people often would have a patch window of, oh, we only patch on Saturday night from 1 to 3 a.m. And some poor person, draws the lucky straw, gets to be awake at those weird hours and come into the office as zombie. Let's stop that, guys. The nice thing about vSAN is this isn't like, your two controller array where when you take one controller off, all you got left is one. And if that goes down, you're dead, and bad things have happened. With vSAN, if you've got a 10 node cluster, if you've even got a 5 node cluster, when you have one host go offline, you're only losing a 10th or 1/20th or 20% of the resources here. And so as a result of that, the impact of a rolling upgrade through a scale out system like vSAN is actually muted. In fact, the larger the cluster gets, the less the impact. And so this is why I encourage people, if you're patching on a regular basis, if you're using VLCM, which is amazing, it'll full stack patch, take care of the firmware and the BIOS. It'll reduce the amount of steps involved in that. If you're doing this on a regular basis, this should become maybe not a no op, but an easy op, to where you queue this, you fire this off. If you have more than one test cluster, or you have another cluster, you might use it as a canary and fire it off there first. Or maybe you patch one host and you wait 24 hours. Maybe you do some practices like that if you're feeling a little more conservative. But let's patch early and often, and let's get through this. And you know what? If you really, really hate to patch and you don't want to patch, you don't want to do that, VMC on AWS awaits, as well as other public cloud options where it's someone else's problem. And that's kind of a great thing. The best operation is one that someone else has to do. So it can become a very low overhead operation, but it can also become a truly no op.
Yeah, no, I think the idea of that good operational hygiene is about just, making sure that you're really familiar with that process. And that, and the other point that you brought up there that is really interesting about vSAN is that this notion of level of impact as you're doing that maintenance. If you think about those olden days, that's why you needed that so-called maintenance window. But now when it's just, slow and easy as it's rolling through the cluster, then it's not that big of a deal.
And let me just real quick unpack what happens. Let's say you do patch a host and that patch fails catastrophically. The host doesn't even come up. Well, because maintenance mode was automatically engaged when DRS automatically evacuated the host of VMs, there's no running virtual machines on that host. So worst case, VLCM or VUM will just stop and say something bad has happened. Please go figure this out. And it'll auto stop that rolling patch operation. So as long as you have enough capacity to temporarily lose one host while you troubleshoot, which you should always be ready for at least one host failure. You're fine, and it's not going to blow anything up. All your virtual machines were going to be sent off to other hosts to go hang out on. So
yeah.